Good evening, good evening, and welcome to the fall edition of Urban Sentinel Live. I'm your host, Reggie Kearney, and I am so glad to be back with you guys. We were off for 3 months. I believe we took off last of May, June, July, August, September for us to, just to relax, take time off, to vacation, to be with family and friends. So I'm really glad to be back tonight, and I'm really glad to be back tonight because I got a guest who's so I don't know, can't say extraordinary. I mean, it's just a whole lot to throw in a pot and stir it up. But I'm just so glad to have Annabel Quintero. Correct, Annabelle? I'm always bad with names, okay? And Annabelle has a sobering story that we're going to talk about tonight. We just came out of the past weekend, and I don't call it a celebration, a reflection on 9/11. And Annabelle has a compelling story to tell us about her experience on 9/11. So, Annabelle, again, I'm glad to have you here with us tonight on Urban Sentinel Live. How you feeling? How you doing?
Good, really good, Reggie. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm glad.
Really appreciate it.
It's an honor to have you on the show tonight. Just a little quick background, and we're going to get into the show. Annabelle's a best-selling author, consultant, holistic mindset coach that emphasizes the mid-body emotion connection, provides fertile soil for individuals to create their own life story. And Annabelle is also a survivor of the 2001 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. And she's also featured on the cover of my magazine for this month, Urban Sentinel. So, Annabelle, just take us from the beginning, okay?
Yeah,
Just hey, this is your show tonight. Take us from the beginning.
sure. Thank you, Reggie. Well, so many times in my life, as a coach, as a keynote speaker, I love sharing stories of overcoming how I was born and raised in Seattle and moved to New York City to pursue my dreams of modeling and dancing. I was a B girl at the time, always a B girl at heart, but and I even pursued a dream of learning about money and working on Wall Street. But there's one story that I could never share, and that's that I'm a September 11th survivor. And that was my true first step jump, because that morning I was running late. I was responsible for getting everything ready for the stock market to open. And so I finally get to the office, to the 46th floor of Tower One, and printing everything out. I sat down to read the newspaper, the Financial Times, to see what was going on what was going on with our money while we were sleeping. And then all of a sudden, something just fell on top of our tower. And I just went from side to side, and I was like, what was that? So I go to the window to see. I was like, another building must have fallen on ours. And I look out the window, and it's clear and sunny, and all the buildings are standing upright, and they're shorter than mine. And then all of a sudden, I feel all the rumbling. And then I grab my purse and my sweater and I run to the doorway. There I was met with another man. He had just exited his office because on the 46th floor, different businesses rented different office space. And the fear I could see in his eyes. And he, the rumbling began again. And then he ran back into his office, and that door just slammed like thunder. So there I am by myself. There's no announcement, no fire alarm. And I just say, ay, Dios mío, ¿qué hago? Oh, dear God, what do I do? And I look underneath the desk because I was thinking, well, it's an earthquake. It felt like an earthquake. Maybe I should take cover under the desk. But there were boxes there. And then I look up into where I was sitting, and it was the whole sunny office just turned into this gray, like this muted gray. And I knew that that was my answer, that that was no place for the living. And so at that moment, though, then I started getting paralyzed with fear, because that rumbling, oh my goodness, the way that the building was shaking, it was terrifying. And so I had to stop and just say, Annabelle, just try to leave the building, even if you have to die trying. And I write that in my book because I had to face the worst case scenario in my mind before I could even take the next step. And I ran. I ran in that hallway, and the floors were moving like this. They were teetering, arcing. It felt like waves. And I was just getting thrown around, just like just a rag doll in some fun house. And I finally get to the stairwell near me, and it stops. Thank God the building stops rumbling. So I knew at the time I was touching the doorknob, and I knew at the time to not open it if the doorknob was hot, because I didn't want to get engulfed with flames. I didn't know what was happening. But Reggie, I was so afraid. I couldn't even tell. I had my hand on the doorknob, and I couldn't even tell if it was hot or cold. I was just freaking out, wanted to get out of there. And I told myself, I was like, calm down, Annabelle, just breathe. And so this is just, I put this in there in my book because I really want some people meditate just for mindfulness. And sometimes you will need to stop and breathe and collect yourself in a crisis. And I could finally listen to my synapses, and it said cold. So I opened the door. No one's there. There's still no announcement or fire alarm. And then I all of a sudden feel like I'm choking. Like there is no smoke, but something is burning, and it's invisible, and it's corrosive, and it was just this insidious stench. And then I oh no, something is burning. So I put my hand on that railing, and I stepped with my left, and then I stepped with my right, and I jumped onto the landing. And this was the 46th floor. And I just step, jumped down that stairway. And in my book, I talk about what I encountered, hysterical people. I saw, unfortunately, a burned lady, and really just the heartache of seeing our firefighters really ascend their stairway to heaven. And I take everyone through that, what happened in the building, how I got to solid ground. Anthony, who shared a cab with me, I spent most of the day in a cab. And then these awakenings, these spiritual awakenings that happened to me when I had reached Uptown, I got up to Inwood, I went to the church, and I take people on that journey of what I experienced, and also the awakenings within that day, so that people can really, everyone right now is going through something, and life altering things that you can't control. And I really wanted people to have a way to see themselves in this story and find a way to center their healing so that they continue, be fulfilled and live their dreams.
Now, Annabelle, what about your office mates? What about the people who were on the floor, on the 46th floor with you? Did they understand the urgency of leaving that floor and trying to get down to the first floor?
So I was by myself. The CEO wasn't in the office at the time, and then his son was at an analyst conference in Midtown. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was by myself.
Oh, okay. So the layout of the 46th floor, like you said, there were other people renting offices from you guys on the 46th floor, right?
No, not from us.
Oh, okay.
Just from the actual management firm. Yeah.
So did those people start leaving at the time you left?
No, I did not see anyone on my floor except the man to my right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to get down to the first floor, to the ground?
About an hour.
An hour.
About
Uh-huh.
almost an hour.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So when you got out of the building, down on the ground level, and you making your way from that building, how long was it before that building collapsed? Which building were you in? You were in the first building or the
Tower
second
one.
building? Tower one. How long
Yeah,
was it
on
before
the
it collapsed?
46th floor. So we I finally got out on at a Borders Books, and that's right on Cortlandt Street. And then, thank God there was a first responder, like, move out, cross the street and move away from the site. And that helped me just kind of guide me and direct me. And so I crossed the street. Right there were Trinity churches, and got to Broadway, went north on Broadway. This lady with red hair had come and asked if she could walk with me, and she held my arm, and she had a whole bag of tissues and was handing them to me. I was drenched because of the sprinklers that were on the lower floors. So my clothes, everything, my hair, everything was wet, and then I was just crying. So that let's see. So I was walking pretty steadily up Broadway. I really wanted to get out of there. People were in line for the payphones because the cell phones weren't working, and
Right.
only if you had a two-way pager, the texting was working, but that was it. So finally, at Broadway and Canal, she helps me get a cab, and this nice man, Anthony, shared the cab with me, and he was a construction worker. He was working on the Federal Reserve building. And so he shared it with me, and we went west on Canal. And then we got to a light right at Church Street. And it turned, and all the cars, it was like tons of traffic. And finally, the light turned green, and I was like, okay, go, because I really wanted to get out of there. And the cab driver's like, wait, the people. And all these people came and just ran right into the intersection. I mean, they almost got hit by cars. And then there was this white plume behind them.
Okay.
Now, yeah, and I write about that in Church Street Smoke, in that chapter. And we didn't know what had happened.
Okay.
But everyone was running. They were running between cars. They were trying to get into shops, into stores. And then finally it cleared away, and then we drove west. And then when we got to the Avenue of the Americas, we went north. And that's when we turned around. And that's when we saw that Tower 1 was still burning, but Tower 2 was gone. And Anthony and I, we just fell apart. Yeah, we were just like the people. And that was the last time I had seen, my eyes had seen the towers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is why I even designed that for my book.
Okay.
That was my last visual. Yeah.
Now, when your tower got hit, you say you felt the rumblings and everything, but you couldn't tell what was going on? So when did you realize that an airplane had actually hit the building? When was it? I know you went through the process of getting out of the building, walking up the street, getting into the cab and everything, turning back around and realizing and seeing that the plume of smoke and ash and dust coming towards you. So when did you finally realize that an airplane had hit the building?
We didn't know. So I got into the stairwell on the 46th floor. There were people. I kept going down. I just step, jumped all the way down till about the 33rd floor. And then that's when there was people. And there was people on the right-hand side of the stairwell. And then along the left where the railing was, it was cleared for first responders and firefighters to come up. It wasn't until, because none of the phones were working, but it wasn't until we were close, like in the 20s. It was around that when this one guy had a two-way pager, and then he shared with us that a plane had hit our tower. And we were like, oh my goodness. But then we kept descending. And then it was later that we found out. Then he tells us a plane hit Tower 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when everyone, it's like you can feel the fear that we all had. And I was just praying that the tower wouldn't collapse on us,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt something on top. I felt the earthquake, and then there was that stench. I didn't know, it wasn't wood. It was just, I didn't know what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
so we got information just very piecemealed by people that just happened to have a two-way pager.
Mm-hmm. Now, how far were you from where you live at? Because it sounded like you probably got turned around as far as trying to get out of the area and out of the city. So, how far away were you from home once you finally got to a point where you could just get out the cab and try to figure things out?
Mm-hmm. So I was way up north. I lived in Kingsbridge in the Bronx off the 1 train. And it took all day long to go north on Manhattan. We went through Harlem, and then we went into Inwood. And then it wasn't until we were at a standstill. It was like a parking lot. Everyone was trying to get out of Manhattan through the Broadway Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
which connects Manhattan to the Bronx. And so I finally got out near the Cloisters. I don't know if you're familiar with
Not that.
Manhattan, but there's an area called the Cloisters. And so I got out there and then walked north. And then right when I got to Broadway and Isham, that's when I went into the church, the Good Shepherd Church. And I was like, I couldn't believe I had made it, Reggie. I was like, I can't believe. And I was just standing there in the church, crying, thanking God. And out of nowhere, as if, it felt like when your hand goes in a river, you know how you can feel a current?
Right.
And I felt that. I felt that in my wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel my blood flow in my wrist. And I was just more amazed that this whole time that I had kind of thought God was like out there, this whole omniscient, this life force,
Mm-hmm.
We're made of energy, right? But I experienced it, and I was in awe that I could experience the layers of creation on a day that was so tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And so traumatic for me. And that really put me on this path of seeking more healing and more spiritual awakenings as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so fast forward to now. What gave you the inspiration to write the book? And tell us about the book.
Mm-hmm. The first time I wrote about what had happened was a couple of days after, because all my family was in Seattle and I was in New York, and I couldn't repeat what had happened to me. So I wrote my family an email. Okay, this is what happened. So you can call me and ask me how I'm doing, but I cannot repeat what I experienced. I couldn't utter a word. I was really isolated, and I didn't know what PTSD was. And so I was just trapped in this, in survivor's guilt, right? I'd be thankful for my life, and then I would cut myself down because I'm not doing, what am I doing with my life? And there's so many people that are not here. And so it really crippled me. And so I didn't know how acute trauma really worked. I didn't really know what it was, even though I had seen a mental therapist and all that. So when you ask me about writing, I always journaled, and journaling has always been a way for me to process and a way for me to make sense and reflect. But truly, my healing didn't start really until I went back to Seattle and did a 10-day meditation where I could learn how to watch myself. because I was crying, I was reacting and being triggered, and I needed a way to learn. So I actually learned the tools of watching oneself, like the 3 pillars of human behavior: your mind, your emotions, and your bodily sensations. And those 3 things is what that dynamic is what creates our human behavior. And I had grown up Christian. I didn't even know that was a thing. I kept praying to God, hoping that I would change or this would get better, and it wasn't. So having those tools really helped. And then after that, I also was invited to experience in a nipi, which is a sweat lodge. It's a native sacred ceremony. And I had no idea. I mean, you're in this almost like an igloo made out of trees. It's made out of willow trees, and rocks are in the middle, and there's prayer and drum, and just as my dear friend Carolyn, she pours water on the rocks that are hot from the fire that's outside. There's all this steam and this heat, and that heat really healed me as well. And I never knew like Mother Earth could take dense energy and my trauma and take it and transmute it. So that really set me on a path to continue with the practice, like knowing to heal my body as well as being mindful and understanding how I could create more space. And breaking the silence really helped. So although I was writing, I tried to finish my book back in 2009. It was too difficult. I just became a mom of 2 at that time. And I would just break down the moment I would remember. It was very difficult. And I couldn't even tell people. So I stayed in silence for about at least 15 years.
Oh, okay.
And then when I slowly shared it on my 40th, that was one time. And then I shared it with my church. And then finally, as I wanted to be a better public speaker, that's when I finally shared it as a student for Lisa Nichols. And she invited me on her stage, and I went on there and shared with the world that I'm a September 11th survivor, and that sharing my story healed me in a way. It was such powerful medicine. And at that point, then I realized I want other people who have gone through their own September 11th to be able to break their own silence so they can heal, so we can really contribute to the collective wellness of us all.
Okay, good. So how are you today? 4 years later, how are you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's always a sad time, right? It's such a tragedy. You feel the pain of so many people, so much loss. 20 years, it's like as a survivor, even throughout the years, I would feel responsible on the 11th, but I would also feel responsible when there was different wars that would happen. Because as a survivor, I have to tell you, I only experienced one day of war, and it's the most terrifying thing ever. And I would never want that for anyone, anywhere in the world. And so I'd say that for me personally, I've learned to manage my grief, where I can be sad and cry, but not for me to stay there and be trapped by it. And also, before I'd have this reverence of silence, but now I've transformed that to really realize, like, wow, I know so much because of this experience, right? I'm like, have this wisdom now, and I want to help others with it. So really to honor my life, right? It's like, I want to honor the fallen by sharing my story and helping others break their silence so they can heal, so they can live their best life. And that's really how I've transformed it, and for myself, and I hope for others as well, because it's time for us to heal from this. It's been 20 years, and
Yeah.
it's been a hard time for us all. We've all
Yeah.
been emotionally impacted by this
Oh
tragedy.
yes, yes we have. Healing, I don't know. It's always going to be there. That was one of the most devastating days of this country. It's, because everyone got up that morning, went about their daily business, thinking that this was just another day, another work day. Do what you got to do. Come on back home and relax. And it changed us, and it changed the country forever. So
Mhm.
uh, it's I don't know.
I,
I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, I think with
Yeah.
this, especially with this other collective traumatic event,
Hmm.
the pandemic,
Yeah.
another opportunity for us because, um, I mean, think about the unity we felt after the 11th, and even this
Yeah.
weekend. Even this weekend, I we I just was seeing the sadness, but
Right.
also the love. I was
Yeah.
seeing the grief, but also the
Hmm.
compassion,
Right.
and also the hope for unity for us to be
Hmm.
more together. So I really feel there's a yearning there,
Hmm.
and we do need each other. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that we have found out from this great pause, as I call it. Um, we have definitely learned that we need touch, we need each other, we need communication, we
Right.
need to hear each other's voice, and even globally, it's like
Hmm.
we do need each other. And
Yeah.
so I hope, I'm pretty sure that there will be more people focused on how to rebuild their lives after a life altering event. And that's really why I wrote the book, because I wanted people to not misuse their imagination and only stay in worry and fear, but
Right.
to actually take the time to ground your nerves, like
Mhm.
use your five senses to calm yourself every day and create that space so that you can actually say, okay, how am I going to show up today?
Right.
And take it day by day, because that's all we really have,
Yeah.
is this
That's it.
moment, is this
Yeah.
day.
That's
And
true.
too many times we kind of stay in the future, or
Mhm.
we only stay in the past, and
Right.
we need to just be present, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think doing that is going to really transform who we are, and open up our hearts, right?
Yeah. Well, Annabelle, we can't tell the whole story tonight, but we wanted to tell a little bit of it. I do appreciate you being part of the show tonight, our fall edition of Urban Sentinel Live. So tell the viewers, how can they purchase your book, Step, 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 Jump? How can they purchase it?
Sure. They can actually go to my website, stepstepjump.com.
Hmm.
Thank you. I love you too. And there I teach people how to center their wellness
Hmm.
so that people can be fulfilled and really live out their dreams. And so
Hmm.
that's how I want to honor the fallen, and we all can do that by loving each other and living our best life for each other.
Okay. So how can they? You have a Facebook page, you have Instagram. So
Mhm.
what are your connections for Facebook? How can people connect with you on Facebook?
Oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's step
Hmm.
step jump.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
And the same
Okay.
thing with Instagram. It's step
Okay.
step underscore jump. Yeah.
Okay.
They can all,
Okay.
and there's links there that take you
Hmm.
straight to an independent bookstore or
Hmm.
Amazon, where you
Oh,
can get,
okay.
yeah, or you can
Okay.
sign up for my wellness journey that I'll be
Okay.
starting soon.
All right.
Yeah. I look
Great.
forward to seeing you all.
Okay, great. So, like I said earlier, Annabelle is on the cover of my magazine for this month. And the article discusses some of what we talked about tonight, because you can't tell the whole story in a magazine either.
Yeah.
But I just felt compelled to have Annabelle to be a part of the show tonight to get us started for our fall season. So like I
Thank
said, we have to all we. This is something we're going to always remember. Um, as the years go by, the pain would decrease, but we have to remember this. A lot of people died on that day, so we have to remember the people and the families that lost loved ones. And
you. Oh, yeah.
this is going to be an ongoing process. It's going to take a while.
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, we got COVID thrown in on top of that. So Life's journey can be rough sometimes, and we were never promised, to have an easy journey in life. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to learn and keep on moving, keep on moving. So again,
Absolutely.
Annabelle, thank you for being with us now. Now
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night is the fall edition of Real World News TV. With my host and myself, Sharon Tappet, we will be discussing uh, the job market during COVID-19. Because the numbers haven't been there, unemployment's been up, down, all around. People say there are jobs out there, but then people can't find jobs. So we're going to dig into that tomorrow night. So please come back tomorrow night and join us on Real World News TV at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And my co-host, and myself, Sharon Tappert, we're gonna dig into those numbers and everything. But again, Annabelle, uh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you
You're welcome.
for talking to us tonight. 'Cause I know a lot of times it's hard for people to really express themselves after going through an event like 9/11. So I appreciate you coming by, stopping by, all the
Thank
way from
you.
Seattle, Washington, to
Yeah.
spend some time with us and to enlighten us on your book and enlighten us on the 9/11 experience for yourself. And
Thank you
for the
for
people
having me.
viewing, please go to our website. Please go to our Instagram page and like both the Facebook page and Instagram page and buy her book. Buy her book, okay? It's all something we can learn from reading about her book, Step, Step, Jump, okay? So, everyone, good night. Again, thank you, Annabelle. You and I will
Thank
be talking again. You know that.
Yes.
Take care of yourself. Have a good day tomorrow. Everyone, have a good day tomorrow. Thank you for tuning
Thank
in to Urban Sentinel Live, the fall edition. And hey, I got to figure out now who I'm going to have next week. Everyone, take care. Have a
Thank you
blessed
for having
evening.
me.
Be good. Take care, Annabelle. And thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.